Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time, we're all about taking control,
Ah,
crafting a life that you really love, not just letting life happen to you.
right.
It's all about self-empowerment. And to help us with that, we're going to be diving deep into an excerpt from lookafor.pdf.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This excerpt doesn't just touch on that surface level feel good stuff.
Right.
It kind of gets into the nitty-gritty of self-empowerment,
Yeah.
both the practical techniques and the deeper philosophy.
I'll be honest with you. I'm always a little bit skeptical when people start throwing around the term self-empowerment.
Uh-huh.
It can sound a little fluffy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, what does it actually mean to take control of your life?
Yeah, I hear that. There's definitely a lot of vague talk out there. But what I found really intriguing in this excerpt is how it links self-empowerment directly to personal responsibility.
Oh, interesting.
It's about acknowledging that you have the power to make choices, and with those choices come consequences.
So it's not just like positive affirmations
Yeah.
and manifesting your dream life.
Yeah,
There's actual work involved.
definitely. The excerpt uses this great analogy of the locus of control. It's about shifting your mindset from feeling like things are happening to you to realizing you're actually the driver.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this is maybe a little more than just surface level motivation.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice? Does this excerpt give us any concrete strategies?
Absolutely. One of the most practical takeaways is the importance of setting SMART goals.
Uh-huh.
And it breaks down how to make your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I've always had a really hard time setting goals. I feel like I get overwhelmed
Yeah.
and I just end up doing nothing.
Sure.
Does the excerpt offer any advice for maybe overcoming that?
It actually suggests starting small. Instead of focusing on these huge, daunting goals, break them down into smaller, more manageable steps. That way you get those quick wins that build momentum and keep you motivated.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like those old school video games, you got to level up gradually.
Yeah.
Speaking of leveling up, the excerpt also talks about positive self-talk, which, to be honest, I sometimes roll my eyes at. But maybe I shouldn't be so quick to dismiss it.
Well, the excerpt goes beyond just repeating affirmations in the mirror. It actually delves into the idea of cognitive reframing, which is a really powerful technique for challenging those negative thoughts that can sabotage our efforts.
Okay, so it's more about actively changing the way we think about things,
Yeah,
not just trying to force ourselves to be positive all the time.
exactly. It's about recognizing those negative thought patterns and consciously choosing to reframe them in a more empowering way.
Okay, now this excerpt throws in a quote from the Buddha.
Yes.
No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. And there's something about that quote that really resonates with me, but I don't know if I fully grasp its deeper meaning.
It's a really powerful statement, and it ties in beautifully with this idea of personal responsibility. It's a reminder that ultimately we are the architects of our own lives. We can't wait for someone else to come along and fix things for us.
I remember this one time.
Wait, before you tell your story.
Okay.
It's fascinating how this quote, coming from a Buddhist perspective, connects to the concept of karma, the principle of action and consequence.
Of karma. Okay. You lost me there.
Essentially, karma suggests that every action we take, every thought we have, creates this ripple effect that shapes our future experiences. It emphasizes that we have the power to shape our own destiny through our choices.
So it's like we're constantly planting seeds with our thoughts and actions, and those seeds eventually grow into the fruits of our lives.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the Buddhist quote reminds us that we are the ones holding the seeds.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see how this all ties together. Self-empowerment isn't just about feeling good. It's about understanding the profound impact our choices have on our lives and stepping up and owning that responsibility.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have more agency than we often give ourselves credit for, and with that agency comes the potential for incredible growth and transformation.
Now, you mentioned karma, and I think that's a really interesting place to maybe pick up after the break.
Sounds good.
So we will be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
So, it's funny you mentioned feeling overwhelmed with setting big goals. That's a really common obstacle. The excerpt talks about this concept of self-efficacy, which is basically just your belief in your ability to succeed.
So if I'm constantly feeling like I'm failing to reach my goals, that actually erodes my self-efficacy,
Right.
making it even harder to achieve things.
Yeah,
So it's like this vicious cycle.
precisely. But the good news is that self-efficacy is like a muscle. You can actually strengthen it. And the excerpt suggests that one way to do that is to celebrate those small wins.
Oh, okay.
Each time you hit a milestone, no matter how small it is, it reinforces that belief in your own capabilities.
I guess like training a dog.
Right.
You give them little rewards along the way, and that keeps them motivated.
Exactly.
But what about those times when, despite my best efforts, things just don't go my way?
Yeah.
How do I stay resilient in the face of, like, setbacks and failures?
That's where the excerpt's emphasis on resilience really comes into play.
Okay.
And it provides some really cool techniques for building that resilience. One that stood out to me was mindfulness meditation.
Mindfulness? I thought that was just for, like, calming down or de-stressing.
Right.
What's the connection to resilience?
It's more than just relaxation, though that is a great benefit. The excerpt explains how mindfulness helps you develop a greater awareness of your thoughts and emotions. And this allows you to observe those negative thoughts without, like, getting swept away by them.
Okay, so instead of my thoughts controlling me,
Yeah.
I'm in more control of how I respond to them.
Exactly.
Oh, that's huge. But isn't there a danger of becoming too focused on, like, ourselves?
Yeah.
In this whole, like, self-empowerment thing? Like, do we have to do it all alone?
That's a great question, and it's something the excerpt addresses directly. While it emphasizes personal responsibility, it also stresses the importance of building a support system.
Yeah,
It's about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you and want to see you succeed.
So it's not about being a lone wolf. It's about having a tribe to cheer you on.
Exactly. Think of it as having a team of advisors, cheerleaders, and fellow adventurers, all supporting you on your quest for self-empowerment. And just like in any team, each person brings their own strengths and experiences to the table.
I guess even the Buddha had his Sangha, right? His community of fellow monks. Okay, so support systems are crucial. But what if you're surrounded by people who, well, aren't exactly the most supportive?
Yeah.
Maybe they're even, like, holding you back.
That's a tough situation for sure. But the excerpt does offer some advice. It suggests taking an honest look at the relationships in your life. You know, are these people encouraging you to grow, or are they subtly, like, undermining your efforts?
So it's about being really discerning about who you let into your inner circle.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about cutting people out of your life, but it's about being mindful of the energy that you allow into your space. It's about making conscious choices that align with your goals and values.
You know, this makes me think of something I read about emotional vampires. You know those people who just drain your energy
Right.
and leave you feeling depleted?
That's a great analogy. And the excerpt suggests setting boundaries with those energy drainers, maybe limiting your time with them, or choosing to not engage in conversations that bring you down.
So this is making me think about, like, the people I follow online too. Do their posts, like, inspire me, or do they just make me feel inadequate? Maybe I need to do some digital decluttering.
I love that. That's a brilliant application of this principle. It's about taking responsibility for curating your own emotional environment, both online and offline.
This is so eye-opening. So self-empowerment isn't just about, like, what we do individually. It's about being intentional about the relationships and the influences that we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our environment plays a huge role in shaping our thoughts and feelings, and ultimately our actions.
Yeah, it's like if you want to grow a beautiful garden, you wouldn't plant seeds in, like, toxic soil, right? You would carefully nurture the ground, making sure it's fertile and conducive to growth.
What a perfect way to put it.
And I think that's a great point to end on for this part.
Yeah, I think so too.
We will be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive.
You know, this whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on self-empowerment. It's not just about, like, willpower or achieving some external goal. It's about cultivating this, like, internal sense of agency and responsibility.
Yeah, it's almost like we're planting a garden, like you said earlier. But it's not just about, like, weeding out the negative influences.
Right.
It's also about actively cultivating those positive seeds within ourselves.
Yeah, and, like, tending to that garden takes consistent effort.
Absolutely.
There are going to be days when we forget to water those seeds, or maybe some pesky weeds sprout up. Right, and that's where the excerpt's emphasis on self-care comes in. You know, it talks about how important it is to nourish ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally.
So it's not selfish to prioritize things like exercise, getting enough sleep, or even just taking some time for ourselves to relax and recharge.
Not at all. You know, the excerpt frames self-care as an act of self-respect. You know, it's acknowledging that you are worthy of care and attention. And when you care for yourself, you're actually better equipped to show up for others and pursue your goals with more energy and focus.
That makes sense. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
You need to fill yourself up first.
Exactly. And the excerpt provides some really practical self-care strategies too.
Oh, like what?
Things like setting aside time for activities that you actually enjoy, practicing gratitude, spending time in nature, all that good stuff.
You know, one thing I've noticed in my own life is that when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it's usually because I'm neglecting my own needs. I'm so busy trying to please everyone else that I forget to take care of myself.
It's so easy to fall into that trap. But the excerpt reminds us that self-empowerment really starts with self-compassion. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a loved one.
Wow, this has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored so many different facets of self-empowerment, from setting those smart goals and practicing positive self-talk to cultivating supportive relationships and prioritizing self-care.
Yeah, and we even delved into some of the deeper philosophical underpinnings.
We did.
Like personal responsibility, karma, and like the power of our choices.
It's like we've been given this whole toolkit for taking control of our lives and creating a future that aligns with our values and aspirations.
And the best part is it's a journey that we can all embark on regardless of our starting point.
So as we wrap up, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with today?
Imagine your future self. The person you want to become after embracing all of these self-empowerment practices. What does that person look like? What kind of life are they living? Hold that vision in your mind and let it guide your actions today.
That's beautiful. It's like planting those seeds and then visualizing them growing into this magnificent tree.
Exactly. And remember, self-empowerment is an ongoing process. There will be challenges along the way, but with each step you take, you're moving closer to that vision of your best self.
So true. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into self-empowerment. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tools to help you on your own journey.
Remember, you have the power within you to create a life that you love.
Until next time, keep diving deep.